Korea Mapenduka, and welcome to Africa Good Morning, the show that keeps you up to date with the latest news in Africa and beyond. I am Glenora Shipura, joined by Diana Master. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm great. It's great to see you on this show, doing it with you.
So
we have not
in a while.
In a
together, I mean.
Exactly.
So it's good to have you with me.
Yes.
Or it's good to be with you, whichever one.
Either way. I've improved so much. Great, that's
Tamuka. Okay, yes, there great. We go. All right, now let's get into what you can expect in today's broadcast. An update as Manhunt as dangerous suspects escape cell, and this is right here in Namibia. And Gaza officials say Israel released 150 detainees, and MPs reject Lord's amendments to Rwanda bill. We'll also be crossing over to Cape Town, South Africa a little later on in the show as Arrie Hougaard updates us on all the news making headlines that side. We'll be right back after this short break with our top stories.
We are all seeking connection to each other, to the world, to the spaces we exist in.
Like poor sportsmanship right now from the lads.
You might be physically ready, your body is ready, but mentally.
Here's another chance, and it is a goal from Vindo.
Sy sê wie is er aan neertrek en daai bal het my grond gevat. Ja, hy het grond gevat en is
but just enough next.
Running that mountain up. Okay, so we will be doing this for the mountain climber. More advanced, slightly advanced.
So is jou trolley reg? Want
I love it. I love it. So then
kickstart our countdown at number 5 with this one.
Op Netwerk TV se Klets Kompas gesels ons nuus van 'n Maandag tot Donderdag. Ons kyk ook na die weer en meer. Stories wat jou raak en stories wat saak maak.
They've made a mistake in denying me bail, and they've made several other mistakes in many other cases.
The channels that teach us something new or reflect our expression. So it goes beyond switching to the right station. It's about choosing the experience that can adorn the present, dressing it with our tastes as we expand our preferences, because what we are actually connecting to is boundless, limitless human energy. And this is the spirit of NTV.
All right, now let's get into what you can expect in today's broadcast.
Getting into your first story, Namibian police are on the hunt for 11 prisoners who broke out of a police cell in the northeastern Zambezi region. The escapees awaiting trial for serious offenses managed to cut through the roof of the Katimamulilo police station and flee. Items believed to have aided the escape, such as blades and makeshift ropes, were found in the cell. Locals are cautioned as some of the escapees are considered dangerous, including one with a history of murder. 3 escapees have been recaptured, but the search continues. The overcrowded cell, meant for 16 people, housed over 100 prisoners awaiting trial and is currently under renovation. Residents are urged to report any suspicious activities to the authorities.
Now, Gaza's Crossings Authority said Israel released around 150 detainees from the Palestinian territory on Monday, alleging that they had been mistreated in detention. Israeli soldiers have rounded up hundreds of Palestinians during their more than 6-month military offensive in Gaza, holding them without charge before releasing some in groups. The latest detainees to be released were taken to Israel and returned via the Kerem Shalom border crossing before some were treated in a hospital in Rafah in the south of the besieged territory, according to the Gaza Crossings Authority and an AFP journalist. Now, since the early hours of the morning, 150 prisoners from various parts of the Gaza strips who were detained by the Israeli occupation have been released. The spokesman for the Gaza Crossings Authority, Hisham Adwan, told AFP, "It is very noticeable that there is severe mistreatment of these prisoners, as a number of them were sent to Abu Yusuf al-Najjar hospital for treatment," he added. The Israeli military did not comment on the release of these detainees, but said the mistreatment of those in detention was absolutely prohibited.
In our next story, swinging over to Rwanda, MPs have rejected all changes to Rwanda bill made in the House of Lords in an ongoing parliamentary standoff. The much-debated bill will now return to the upper chamber for further scrutiny on Tuesday. It comes as reports suggested the UK held talks with other countries, including Armenia, about replicating the scheme. The plan to send some asylum seekers to Rwanda has faced setbacks since it was first announced in April 2022 by Boris Johnson's government. The bill, which declares Rwanda safe, is likely to pass this week with the government majority, meaning any further amendments made by peers should be overturned. It will not become law until both Commons and Lords agree on the final wording, a process known as parliamentary ping-pong. It will now returns to the Lords, where peers are set to review it on Tuesday.
Now, 9 women who had been arrested in Zimbabwe for allegedly bullying the First Lady have had the charges dropped, local media report. Excuse me. They were withdrawn on the instructions of First Lady Auxilia Mnangagwa, the report said, citing presidential spokesperson George Charamba. Both the First Lady and Police Commissioner General agreed the officers on the ground overreacted. Mr. Charamba was quoted as saying, the women, who ranged in age between 19 and 49, were said to have allegedly booed Mrs. Mnangagwa after missing out on food and clothing handouts that she was distributing at a charity event in the eastern Manicaland province last Wednesday. Prosecutors charged that the women, who were seated on the ground, stood up and started bullying the First Lady while she was making her closing remarks during her address, intending to disrupt her speech, and showed disgruntlement that they had not received anything from her. The Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights, who represented the women in court, said they had been accused of unlawful, abusive and insulting behavior towards the First Lady and was subsequently charged with disorderly conduct, as ZHLR added. The organization said the women denied the charges, arguing that they had been arrested for leaving the event while the First Lady was still speaking.
In the last of our top stories, drug regulators in Tanzania, Rwanda and Zimbabwe have recalled a batch of Johnson & Johnson children's cough syrup as a precautionary measure after their Nigerian counterparts said laboratory tests found high levels of toxicity. The countries join Nigeria, Kenya and South Africa in recalling the same batch of the syrup, which is used to treat coughs, hay fever and other allergic reactions in children. South Africa has also recalled an additional batch. Laboratory tests on the syrup by Nigeria's health regulator showed a high level of diethylene glycol, which has been linked to the deaths of dozens of children in Gambia, Uzbekistan and Cameroon since 2022 in one of the world's worst waves of poisoning from oral medication. Diethylene glycol is toxic to humans when consumed and can result in acute kidney failure. The batch of Benylin pediatric syrup recalled was made by J&J in South Africa in May 2021.
That brings us to the end of our top stories. Now, after the break, we are talking South African elections with the Jacob Zuma making an appearance once again on the ballot papers. Arrie Hougaard in Cape Town will give us a full update on the story and more stories stemming from South Africa. Stay tuned.
We are now joined by Arrie Hougaard, who will tell us what exactly is happening in the South Africa political landscape and more news from South Africa. Good morning, Arrie.
Yes, very good morning, Glenora and Diana. Nice to talk this morning. Yes, lots happening. It's speeding up to election time. It's going to be roughly in a month or five or 6 weeks time. So everybody's campaigning. That is typically what happens in South Africa. More in the news at the moment is seems like former President Jacob Zuma, as you mentioned earlier, can't stay out of the news. The IEC, the Independent Election Commission, they in the process to confirm all the processes for the election. I'll talk more about that just now. But briefly on the MK party, that is in Konto, a CSP party. still lots of fights with the trademark. Those are the two logos. The one on the left is the one that's always been used for many decades by the ANC, the military wing. The one on the right, the white one, is the one that is used now by the MK party. And so there's obviously a difference. It is, on the green one on the left is the one that's used by the MK party now. The one on the right was the one that the ANC used all the years, the white one. So you can see the similarities. It's the spear that's higher and lower, and so that is in court. What's been coming out is that the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission search has showed that it is now officially the logo is officially the trademark of the ANC. So it used to be with the legacy projects. So that is a new development that they assigned the logo to the ANC. It will be a fight that continues. And that is the Patriotic Alliance. That's one of the parties that's quite active in the Cape Town area. That is Gayton McKenzie. And he announced that he's got 5 partners that he's going to go into alliance in the Western Cape area. Frustrating area for the ANC because there's been the Democratic Alliance rule for since the elections begin, since 1994. So it is. They say that the Patriotic Alliance say that they might be able to challenge the DA in the Western Cape because of those 5 partners, but it seems to be very small partners. It is the initiatives from the Karoo, Oudtshoorn, and Witzenberg. So it's not a very prominent party. So it's all happening here in South Africa with the elections.
A lot happening as the elections are inching closer and closer, and Arrie, of course, will be expecting you to give us an update as the stories develop. Now, South African internet users on the Elon Musk-owned Starlink will have their services terminated on the 30th of April. Why is this?
Yes, there's many of the users in Africa all over the globe that's been trying to get on this. The reason is it's obviously satellites that is all around the globe, and there's thousands of them. But in South Africa, there's no official license for Starlink, so users can't use it. So what they did was they assigned in other countries, and they've been using it in South Africa. That's because it's not like an internet line or line that you put into your computer. It's all because of the satellites globing Earth. So at the moment, it is the Gaza that said that Elon Musk, there in the photo from SpaceX, he's South African-born, he's the owner. But they didn't give a license, and the reason for that is that it needs to be 30% owned by a previously disadvantaged group in South Africa. So there's no license for Starlink at the moment, and from the end of the month, it will the people that's using Starlink won't be able to have access. And you're allowed to have 2 months outside of the country where you're registered, but it's not happening now. So it's frustrating because it's obviously quite popular in rural areas where internet is quite a challenge. So hopefully they can get a license soon. So that's something they can look into.
All right, Arrie. Now swinging back to election news. The Electoral Commission of South Africa will now start to print ballot papers, and as the voter lists have been finalized.
Yes, that's all happening now. So they had some court cases again with former President Jacob Zuma challenging, or there was a challenge that he's not allowed to vote. But that's what the ballot paper looked like the previous time. It's going to be even bigger. It's more than 50 parties that's on there, lots to choose from. But they can go into print now. So there's 27 million registered voters in South Africa. And there's going to be 23,292 voting stations. So it's going to be all over the country. And so they given the go-ahead. And the biggest news is that former President Jacob Zuma is quite in the news as I'm talking today. He's going to be the face on the MK party. And it wasn't a week ago, it wasn't the case. It was going to be Jabulani Khumalo. He formed the party. But now it's official, the face that will be on the ballot paper for the MK party will be former President Jacob Zuma. So that's quite a big development. And the IEC said they accepted the change of structure there in the MK party. So it's going to be an interesting time. So it's going to be President Zuma against President Ramaphosa.
That is definitely interesting to see. A lot is happening in South Africa, like I said earlier. It's almost hard to keep up with what is happening, especially when it comes to election news. Now, Arrie, closing off your top stories, Volkswagen confirmed an investment of 4 billion rand in South Africa that will benefit the Eastern Cape economy. That is rather good news.
Yes, indeed, it's good news. And Volkswagen's been, the German car maker has been a partner for South Africa for many decades, especially in the Eastern Cape. basically a foundation for the economy there in the Eastern Cape. That's the massive Kariga plant. So it's a massive construction there, and they produce cars not only for South Africa, but many of the cars that's produced here exported to Europe and Brazil, etc. So that's how it looks like when they're building a car, the cars that we drive. But it's a 4 billion South African rand investment, and it is for a range of SUV models that will be produced at the Kariga plant in the Eastern Cape. So it's a big positive for what happens economically in the Eastern Cape. And also it is Volkswagen that said that for their footprint in Africa, South Africa is very important. So to produce the cars here, it's not only for South Africa, it will probably be cars in Namibia and Zimbabwe, Botswana that will also be produced there. So it's a big footprint for Volkswagen. So good news, at least, between all these challenges we have in the country. But Volkswagen is making a big impact on the economy. So yes, that's all the South African news at the moment. I hope it's a great day for everyone.
Thank you so much, Arrie, for bringing us the news stories from South Africa. We'll now take a quick ad break and return with our economic news.
All right, let's take a look at our economic news, starting off in Kenya. Kenya Power has recently announced a significant reduction of 13.7% in electricity cost effective from this month onwards, which comes as a welcome relief for consumers across the country. This notable decrease is primarily attributed to two key factors: the strengthening of the Kenyan shilling against the American dollar and a notable decline in fuel prices. The reduction in electricity costs is largely driven by a considerable decrease in both the fuel costs charge and foreign exchange fluctuation adjustments.
Now moving over to the Ivory Coast, surrounded by cocoa trees and intense heat, Christian Andre Yapi is forced to admit that the precious beans are no longer growing as they should, a major problem for the world's leading producers. The beans are turning black and rotting, he tells AFP, at his plantation near Agboville, 70 kilometers from the economic capital Abidjan. They're not growing properly because of the heat. The leaves on the trees usually provide shade for the pods, but the sun is drying them up and they are falling off the trees. It is so hot that Yapi can only work in the morning, leaving plenty of spare time to dwell on his losses.
All right, let's take a look at our economic indicators before we return with the sports news with Arrie Hougaard again.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with soccer news first. It's soccer news from the English Premier League, and Chelsea played against Everton, and it is Chelsea that had a big win. They beat Everton by 6-0, and it is Chelsea that remain in number 9 position on the English Premier League log, but very close to number 8 and 7, and of course the top 8 go through to play in European competitions. It is Chelsea at the moment with 47 league points after 31 games, and after 33 games it's West Ham with 48 points, and also Manchester United in 7th position. They've got 50 points after 32 games, so quite tight for that fight for the top 8 position in the English Premier League. There was also a strange scene in the game between Chelsea and Everton. It was an argument between Nicholas Jackson and Donny Madueke, and that was when Chelsea had to take a penalty. In the end, it was Cole Palmer that took the penalty, and he also scored the goal in the 64th minute, and Cole Palmer scored 4 goals in the win of Chelsea over Everton by 6-0. Everton battering now. They are in 16th position with 27 league points, just 2 above the relegation zone. On to tennis news, and it is on the WTA women's circuit. It is the Stuttgart Open that's starting this week, and the top 4 seeded players in world tennis will all 4 play in the tournament on clay. Number 1 seed Iga Swiatek, and then number 2 seed Aryna Sabalenka. The number 3 seed in the tournament will be Coco Gauff, and then Elena Rybakina. She's the number 4 seed in the tournament. Already Aryna Rybakina knows that who she will play in the round of 16. All 4 these top 4 players will play only in the round of 16 first. Aryna Sabalenka will play against Paula Badosa. It was Paula Badosa that beat Diane Chandler by 6-3 and 6-4 to go through to the round of 16. And closing off today's international sports news with motor racing news, it's Formula 1 racing. It's the Chinese Grand Prix this coming weekend. Again, Max Verstappen, the favourite to win. But Max Verstappen said that the circuit might not be as favourable for the Red Bull cars as in previous weeks. And that's because the Shanghai street circuit is a street circuit, and the street circus has not been so kind to Red Bull, but they've still been winning, but not that far. So at the moment, Max Verstappen leading by 77 points. Sergio Perez on 64 points. Charles Leclerc in his Ferrari 59 points, and Carlos Sainz Ferrari also on 55 points. So Ferrari chasing Red Bull. It is Mercedes-Benz battling Lewis Hamilton, for instance, in 9th position only with 10 league points, and the team principal of Mercedes-Benz, Toto Wolff, said that no one will catch Max Verstappen this year. He said the driving and the car is currently spectacular. That's the international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Hallo Namibia, ons is by die kus en ons is lus.
Terwyl by die Easter shot.
Okay. Okay, so yes. Please, today you make sure that we are fed. Sorry, ek is nie.
You're still with Africa. Good morning for those of you that are just joining us, or if you just need a quick recap, let's take a look at the highlights from today's broadcast. In Namibia, manhunt as dangerous suspects escape cell. Gaza officials say Israel released 150 detainees. Kenya Power delivers cheaper electricity bills for residents.
And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday morning. From me, Glenn Rashipura.
And me, Diana Master. We'll see you again tomorrow. Do enjoy your Wednesday.